Hello, hello, hello. I hope you've had a good week. Looks a bit spooky in here, doesn't it? Unfortunately, I'm just doing something on Facebook. It's doing all this weird new stuff with Business Manager or something. Anyway, it looks a bit spooky here, doesn't it? Because my light bulb's just blown. So that's a bit of uncertainty I wasn't expecting. So it's a bit dark in here, but I'll do my best to carry on. And we're going to talk about career uncertainty this evening, today, whatever time it is where you are. So yeah, I'm Sarah, your career and leadership expert. I help people to find the roles, the job, the career that they really want to do, that they would love to do, but maybe been too scared to admit it. And I help people who are experiencing difficulties in their current role. So it's a lot about career, much of it is about mindset as well. So, career uncertainty, well, there's certainly a lot of that about at the moment. And the first thing I would say is, yes, there are difficult times at the moment. There are some sectors that are going through particularly challenging moments because of the pandemic. And what we have to comfort ourselves with is that we've never been through something like this. I mean, of course, we had things like the Spanish flu a long time ago, but I don't think any of us were around then. The world is full of uncertainty and it's about how we deal with it. But I understand that this year has been exceptionally difficult and trying and can be difficult for many people. And people may be at different stages in their career. As I've mentioned before, perhaps you've been furloughed, you're still on furlough, perhaps your hours have been reduced, perhaps your job has disappeared. However, there is always uncertainty in the world. And what I would encourage you to do is not to try and buy into the negative news media, because I find I've actually done this as an experiment. I've sat there and watched the news about, I've watched CNN, and I notice my mood is very different then than when if I don't sit there and have that stuff infiltrating into my brain. So I would encourage you that if you do wish to stay connected to the world, by all means do that, but please don't obsess and spend a lot of time thinking about everything that is wrong in the world. If we think about what's going on, our health, our friends, our family, the people that we care about are really super important at the moment. We must make sure that our health and our safety of ourselves is covered, and for those of the people that we love and maybe are taken care of. Now, this has created uncertain times. And what I want you to know, that as human beings, if you are feeling uncertain or a little bit insecure, that this is entirely normal. Because as human beings, we are programmed to look for threats. We are programmed to be scared of uncertainty. We are programmed to want and be biased towards certainty. Unfortunately, the world just doesn't operate like that. This is from the days when we were running about as caveman and cavewoman. We were anticipating and watching for threats. We were watching for saber-toothed tigers that might come out, pounce, and it triggers a part of our brain called the amygdala. Can't get my words out. The amygdala, which is like the fight or flight response, and even freeze. And I've got another F word that I can use, but I won't, because I'm a lady and I don't want to swear on this video. But it activates that part of our brain, the emotional centre of our brain. If we that can go into overdrive, and when it goes into overdrive, it floods our bodies with cortisol, which is a stress hormone, and it's really not good for our bodies. It helps, it can harden arteries, it can give us like gastric problems. So there really is a physical impact to some of these stresses that we feel. But as human beings, we are somewhat wired to want certainty, to want to know what's going to happen, and to avoid uncertainty. That's why sometimes people stay in really unhealthy relationships or stay in a job that they really hate, because it's like, at least I know it's there, at least I know that person's there. Even if in your heart of hearts, if you were really to examine it, it's not quite the right thing for you. Now, I also want you to know that we are going through times of a lot of change. I mean, come on, every week something is changing about how we live our lives, who we can socialise with, and some of us may be coping with that better than others. And even if we are coping with it on a subconscious level, we may be, may have some impacts on us we're not aware of. Perhaps you're having funny dreams at the moment, or perhaps you're not sleeping as well. Perhaps you notice you're less motivated to exercise. So this feeling of uncertainty is very normal. And during change, we go through what I call a washing machine of emotions. There's a concept called the change curve, and it's used in business, but we can also apply it to us as individuals, because individuals make up a business, right? As well as processes and technology. So that's things like fear, uncertainty, uncertainty, grief, denial, and then sometimes bargaining and acceptance. And it goes on an up and down curve. And hopefully we will work through those phases. We will deal with our frustration, our anger, our fear, and we will slowly, in our own time, or even more quickly, hopefully, move through those phases to accept what's happening and think about what we can do. So if you're feeling like, I don't know how I'm feeling 1 minute to the next with my career, there's a lot of change going on, so it is entirely natural. So I just want you to be reassured, it's entirely natural. It's a bodily response and a psychological response to what's happening with the uncertainty at the moment. So it's really natural what you're feeling. So please don't feel that you have to run away from these feelings. What I want you to do is understand them, so then you can begin to work through them, okay? I am not the coach that's going to tell you to push away negative feelings, because all feelings create an emotion. An emotion is the external way that we feel and show up, and it's a message that something needs to change. So whether it's positive or negative, those emotions and feelings have really important information for us, and I always like to think that there's a question behind a feeling that needs to be answered. So think about what that question is, okay? But what we don't want to do is paralyse ourselves and stay in fear and uncertainty for too long. And I love the quote, I say it quite a lot, as you may have noticed, that fear hates action and fearlessness is like a muscle. These are two very well-known quotes about fear. So if we can move through these phases and take some action, even if it's just something you can do over the next 5 minutes, the next hour, the next day, the next week, see if you can find something that really motivates you, something that you really enjoy, to just move you on through those stages so you don't paralyse and stay where you are. And if you're feeling particularly overwhelmed or unsure, it may well be, oh, I can only think about the next 5 minutes. Well, think about the next 5 minutes. Think about what can you do to make yourself feel a little bit better in those 5 minutes, and then elongate that time period, okay? Really commit. Make a decision that you want to work through this uncertainty that you may well be feeling, okay? So, you know, think about what can help you with those feelings of uncertainty. Is it a hobby? Is it being around great people? Is it exercise? Is it reading something? Is it watching a funny comedy script? Is it just like going to bed for half an hour? You know, exercise is a fantastic way. Motion really beats emotion sometimes, really helps to process emotions. So I'd really encourage you to do those things to sleep well, make sure you're eating properly and taking the right vitamins and minerals, etc. Okay, so there's loads and loads of statistics about what's going on, right? There's loads of statistics about unemployment. There's a number of different statistics about unemployment going up, but I've also seen statistics about roles on offer in certain sectors going up as well. I've seen statistics about how between the last quarter and this quarter, there are more opportunities. So there are statistics. So try to be careful and question what you read. Try not to buy into those statistics too much, although I do appreciate it is a bit of a negative time. Now, yes, some sectors have been hit, as we know, hospitality, the airline sector, travel sectors, but there are other sectors that are on the rise and increasing. And I would encourage you to go onto LinkedIn, have a look and see what's on there, and have a look at jobs. There are lots of jobs out there, and LinkedIn is constantly updating itself with which companies and sectors are recruiting. So it's a really good free tool for you to go on there and have a look and gain some encouragement about what is out there, because maybe you can pivot into something else. Now, some of the sectors that are still recruiting: communications, marketing, IT, I'm just reading some stuff off that I've seen, health and safety, solicitors, logistics, warehousing, driving, grocery, retail, farms. I know, I'm just throwing everything out there that I've seen in passing. Online education, government, healthcare, accountancy. So go and have a look on LinkedIn and see which sectors are recruiting and what jobs there are available. And sometimes I do that. I set up job alerts just for my own curiosity to sort of get a temperature check on what's happening. Now, sometimes it can feel really disempowering if we've applied for many jobs and we don't hear back. What I want you to do is not take those things personally. Now, I know from working with organisations that processes that might take a few weeks are taking a lot longer. Now, why is that? Because, yes, there may be more people applying, but also it's because many companies are having to constantly change what they're doing. And if you think about it, the HR team are dealing with their day job, but also dealing with COVID. I've worked very closely with HR teams during this crisis and the pandemic, and they've literally had to completely rewrite HR policies overnight. They've had to completely reboot goals and objectives that they set their teams. They've had to completely restructure. So please don't take it personally if you don't hear back or it's taking a long time. What I would ask you is, how are you following up? Because what I'd really like you to focus on is, what can you control and influence? There is so much out there in the big wide world that we have no control or influence over, so let's not even go there. But what we can control and influence is our reactions, our feelings, the actions we decide to take to help us move forward and feel better, what we do with our careers. We do have a certain amount of control and influence on that. Okay, you may not be the decision maker at the end of the line, but you can influence what happens in that by the way you show up, the preparation that you do, the follow-up that you do, how proactive you are, the energy that you show up with to the interview, the preparation that you do about finding out about the company, finding out about the sector, finding out what grants might be available if you want to set up a business. So there's a lot that we can influence and control. And I know that in many of the occasions that I've had interviews in the past, I like to think, have I done everything I possibly could to give myself the best chance? And 9 times out of 10, I've said yes. And 9 times out of 10, when I've kind of in the past maybe winged it and not prepared, maybe that hasn't come across so well. So I really want you to think about how you prepare and building up, because that helps you to build your confidence, and that confidence will exude itself during that interview or even through an email that you send. If you haven't heard anything, follow up. You know, unless the company has said, please do not follow up, then give people a call. Hi Toby, and hi Emmanuel, nice to have you on here. Follow up, be proactive, because your career is also about the actions that you take. Let's make it a two-way process here. And unless the company has said, we don't want you to follow up, we don't want you to call, there is still much that you can do. Make sure if you are going for an interview or you are looking at a new position within your company, that you have looked at the LinkedIn profile, because guess what? People can see that you've looked at their profile, and actually that shows a little bit of proactivity on your part. Look at the company pages, and as I mentioned before, if you're feeling a bit despondent, just go onto LinkedIn. They've got tons of articles there about some of the sectors that I've mentioned that are recruiting. Now, when I've mentioned the sectors that are recruiting, HR, talent development, IT, health and safety, logistics, warehousing, supply chain, online education, just think about those sectors, that within those sectors, there's like so many micro niches. I mean, online education is massive, but what does that mean? Could it be that you are a foreign language teacher or you train to do that? Could it be that you are assisting schools with something? Could it be that you're a private tutor? Because if we think about it, school places are really competitive now, and online tuition has gone boom through the roof. There's so many different micro niches in all those sectors that I've mentioned. IT, security, network security, cyber security, programming, digital applications, marketing, as long as it is broad. You know, everything's going virtual now, so I'm sure there's lots of opportunities there. So try and start thinking in abundance about opportunities that are out there, because it's going to help you bring the right energy to the actions that you take. Now, if you are worried about money, there's lots of things you can do. Well, you can change your job, or still have a conversation about career progression. There's nothing to stop you doing that. And there's nothing to stop you, and I've been coaching people with this, in improving your current situation during the pandemic. Don't let the pandemic hold you back or define you. Allow, you know, if you are on furlough or working part-time, give yourself some, you know, space to think about something that you've always wanted to do, like a side hustle that could become eventually built up to be a business or a new career for you. Do research on LinkedIn, do some freelance work. A friend of mine, somebody I know, has got into blogging. She's built it up over the years and she's making money from blogging. There's a whole world out there of stuff that we don't know about. There's a whole world of stuff that I've found out about since starting my coaching business, like SEO, all this blogging, all of this stuff. It's like, whoa, what is this? There are whole worlds out there I bet you don't know about. So think about, you know, if you are worried about money, don't let the pandemic stop you searching and thinking about your career plans. What is it in 3 months, 6 months, 1 year, whatever time frame you want to think about, 5 years. Where do you want to be in 5 years' time? Work back. And if you know you can get some financial support, obviously the government's giving financial support. If you're starting up a business, there's still lots of loans and schemes that you can access. Perhaps angel investors, crowdfunding, there's lots of funding out there, as long as you feel comfortable with it, to help you access funding. You can do things like switching your energy providers. I mean, I say this a lot, I think, on my videos. I regularly sit down, look at my bills and go, oh gosh, why am I spending so much on that? That seems a bit steep. And look, you know, I've literally in the last week halved my electricity bill, and I know it doesn't sound like much, but 50 quid a month adds up to a few hundred quid in a year. So it's really important sometimes to look at those details and maybe look at where you're like accidentally spending money, because it can be a real wake-up call. I do it all the time. I'm like, oh my goodness, what am I doing? Why am I spending all that money on that? I can get that a better service and probably cheaper somewhere else, or much better value anyway. So there's lots of deals and things to be had out there, you know. And with the pandemic, if you are feeling a little bit uncertain, a little bit worried, then what's to stop you? You know, if you've got a good relationship with your line manager or your boss, why not have a conversation with them? Now, this isn't about going in there with a victim mindset, being emotional. It's about stepping forward on an empowering, proactive foot to say, look, I want to understand, you know, could you help me understand? I'm curious about where the business is going. I'm curious to understand what the prospects are. I'm still really interested in progressing my career, and get that feedback, because sometimes I think what we do, and I'm thinking back to when I was a lot younger, we have a tendency to paralyse ourselves. As I said at the beginning of this video, we have a tendency to like think, oh, I'm just going to keep my head down. I'm going to keep quiet. Just going to, like, you know, keep myself invisible. Just get on and do a good job. No, 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 don't do that. Make sure that your accomplishments are recognised, that it's not about boasting, but it's about making sure that your boss knows what you've been doing, the results of what you've been doing, that you are building up. If you have a company that's, you know, lots of different people in places, build up those relationships. I mean, would you consider working abroad, for example? I mean, I know somebody, I've been coaching somebody who's just got the job that he wants in Switzerland, and he's moved out there despite all of this stuff going on, right? So there still are opportunities out there. So have those conversations, build those networks, make sure you're updating people you're working for and what you're achieving. Make sure you still have those career conversations, because I guarantee it, I've been working with HR teams the last few months, and those conversations are still happening. Is it that you can forge your career path ahead at this point in time, or is it time to sit and reflect and think, do you know what, I've got some time here to think about what I really want. Is it a brand new career, or is it maybe a pivot, something that's transferable? Because I'm not quite enjoying this anymore, but I quite fancy doing something a little bit aligned but a little bit different, if that makes sense. Write down your strengths. Make sure, you know, it's amazing in how many coaching calls when I ask people, what are your key strengths? And many people say to me, oh, I don't know about that. Crumbs, I couldn't tell you. Which is really staggering. We have to know our strengths, because if you're going to go to an interview, you're probably going to be asked that, strengths and weaknesses. And by the way, always back those up with examples if you're in an interview, right? But when you talk about your weakness, then explain how you have worked to improve that weakness inverted commas, some area to work on. So write down your strengths, keep a log of your strengths, keep a log of your soft skills, your technical skills, transferable skills, just in the case that you want to progress your career where you are, or you might be looking to switch up and change. Obviously, keep your CV up to date, keep your LinkedIn profile up to date, and no photos with you and with the dog on the beach. Professional headshots only, please, and keep your CV up to date with specific examples of results. Be proactive on LinkedIn, do some research about jobs and careers that are out there. Phone people. You know, the number of times in the past that I got jobs and contracts before they're even advertised. I know that companies still have to advertise them internally and go through the due process. That's absolutely fine. But because I've been proactive and seized the opportunity, it has been a timely phone call that's got me in the running and got the contract. I cannot remember the last time that I actually applied for something. So sometimes using that building that network, keeping in touch with your network is really, really important. So make sure that LinkedIn profile is up to date and use LinkedIn. I say it every week, I feel like a scratch record, right? But you know, LinkedIn is a fantastic free research tool. So there's lots of different ways that you can market yourself out there. Jobs boards, obviously there's jobs boards. It can sometimes feel like a bit of a free-for-all, so be careful about how many of those you're signing up to. Perhaps you have friends in the industry that you can call on and ask them about opportunities. Perhaps there are headhunters that you really respect and recruitment agencies that you've built up a good relationship with. You know, there's nothing wrong in phoning them, building a relationship and just asking them about, well, how's the market at the moment? What would you suggest? So it's all about being proactive, and despite current circumstances, not letting ourselves be entrapped with paralysis and stopping and having this kind of, I'm just going to keep my head down and keep quiet and try not to be noticed attitude, because that's just not going to work. You know, typically businesses and organisations do like a certain amount of proactivity. They like to see that you can forge ahead, be proactive, provide solutions and be of value to the organisation that you're working with. So there is a lot of patience involved in everything I'm talking about. Patience is really important. As I mentioned, companies and organisations, they're also going through so much change at the moment. I've been working with HR teams, and the rate of knots in which we're rewriting policies, rewriting goals, rewriting job descriptions because of what's happening with the pandemic is unbelievable. So, you know, there's lots of change going on. So be patient with the process, right? Don't take it personally. Whatever you do, don't take things personally. How can you take it personally when somebody doesn't know you? Because it's all about your skills and what you bring to the organisation. So some of these HR teams and training, HR teams and recruitment, they're just incredibly busy. What you might like to do, if you are thinking about some kind of career shift, some kind of career change, or pivoting to something else, what's, you know, in addition to keeping a list of your strengths in terms of technical, soft skills, all of that kind of stuff that I've talked about, have a look at the role profiles on LinkedIn, do a search and see what skills and attributes those people have, and see if there's something that is missing in your skill set. There's so much great training out there at the moment, very low cost, that you can access. So have a look at some of the roles that you might like to do, some of the companies you might like to work for, and see what kind of skills and attributes they like in a person, see what qualifications people have, and maybe carve a plan to get those qualifications or earn those qualifications. What you can also do is create a one-page document, like a one-page sort of, what am I going to call it? Centering document, grounding document, and have you know, sort of sit there, have a glass of wine, you know, have a think about it and write down, okay, what's my target industry? What companies do I want to work with? What job title do I want? Where do I want to be located? What, did I say this? What sector is it? How much do I want to be paid? How many hours do I want to work? What, you can even go into what sort of culture do I like? What activities do I enjoy? And just have that as a centering document. Have it just on one page. Try not to make it too complicated. Keep it really simple, just like a nice list, a checklist that you can go back to. And maybe you can add a section at the end about, okay, well, where can I find these jobs, and have a bit of a brainstorm. LinkedIn, recruitment agencies, job boards, people you know, people you used to work with, people you'd like to work with, people you'd like to shadow and maybe volunteer with, and just have that on one piece of paper, one piece of A4. You can have it on your iPhone if you like, or you can write it down. Writing it's quite nice because it gets it out of your brain, you know, whirring around in your brain and onto paper, really helps focus the brain. But have that one-page grounding document. So just touching on qualifications, because I mentioned that before. If things are a bit slow where you are, it is a great time. That's what I've been doing, you know, because obviously, you know, I'm not seeing certain family members or doing things that I used to. So I did spend the early part of lockdown boosting my coaching skills, learning new things. I did a whole new diploma because I thought, okay, we don't know how long this is going to last for. Things might change, so how can I use this time wisely? Empower yourself. It's not the time to sort of keep still, keep static and keep your head down. We still want to evolve. There's always going to be uncertainty in the world. Completely understand we are in these unprecedented times, easy for me to say, but you know, there's only so much that we can control and influence. We can't control and influence anything. I mean, I'm not being funny. Donald Trump's just come down with coronavirus. the most powerful man in the world, you know. So look, if Donald Trump can't control things with all his bravado and everything else going on, what chance do we have? But there are certain things we can control and influence. You know, we can manage, you know, our interactions with people. We can manage our mindsets. We can help ourselves to feel more empowered and refuse to be defeated and sit there slumped, hiding away, because it's not going to solve anything. So, oh yes, another thing, other social media. Maybe have a look at other social media. You know, if you are in marketing or other sectors, perhaps Twitter, Facebook, they might be good places for you to look as well. You could also pick up industry magazines, subscribe to some online magazines or journals to have a look at what's going on in the industry. Pinterest as well for certain sectors is really good. I'm working with someone at the moment who's going through a massive career shift, but she's really excited. You know, she was probably in that paralysis state, and it's like, we've opened the blinkers now, and it's like, do you know what, Sarah? I've always wanted to do this, but it requires some retraining, and she's got time to do it now. So we're looking at all that interior design stuff that she really, really enjoys, and sort of unleashing her creative talents that she suppressed for so long. So it is possible. It's just about you thinking about what you can control, what you can influence, and it certainly isn't anything else that's going on in the outside world at the moment, or indeed at any time. So it's normal to feel wobbly, normal to have a washing machine of emotions. It's important to accept those emotions and understand what is the message behind this feeling. You know, what problem is it that I need to solve, and trying to move through those and using those other things that I mentioned at the beginning to help you do that. Friends, exercise, avoiding negative media as much as you can, being around empowering people, and thinking about what can I do in the next 5 minutes, what can I do in the next hour, what can I do in the next day, what can I do in the next week that's going to help me to feel better. And it really is a decision to empower yourself. It's a decision. It can start with you, and it can start today, just in any little step that you feel is going to move you forward. Because what we don't want to do is paralyze ourselves even more than this virus has kind of unleashed itself on us. So those are a few more tips on career uncertainty, how you can deal with it. So yeah, hope that's been really, really helpful. I'm doing another live next week. I can't quite remember what it's about, if I'm being totally honest, because I've had quite a busy day, but it is on my Facebook events page. If you've got any questions, or if you'd like any tools relating to any of the tips that I've shared with you this evening, please feel free to drop me a direct message on Facebook. More than happy to send you anything that might help you where you are, or if you want to ask a question in complete confidence, that's fine. And I also offer a 33-minute consultation where we can blitz through something that's on your mind and talk about what help you might need. So there's lots of options there for you. I'm also on Instagram. I don't tend to schedule my Instagram lives, but when I do an Instagram live, it's usually about something different to what I'm talking about on here. So you can always hop on over and see some of the subjects that I've covered on Instagram as well. So yeah, have a great weekend, everyone, and thanks for watching. Take care. Bye.